right, welcome to the Bryce A Show. So, hey, today I've got an old friend returning, and that is Patrick Wood, who is one of the experts on the technocracy and all of the crazy movements that are going on surrounding that. And he just introduced me to a new word that we're going to talk about, and that's technopopulism. This is a rare time that we are in, and we have a rare guest with a brilliant mind. So, hey, Patrick Wood, how are you, brother?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Hey, so yeah, I've been watching some of your online presence and some of your tweets, and wow, it's such a fantastic time to talk to you because, of course, yesterday, as we are recording this, yesterday Trump was sworn in. We witnessed the inauguration, and he had all of the tech bros behind him. They were there, and you've seen a tremendous shift. I mean, all of these guys gave millions and collectively billions of dollars to his opponents, even during his initial presidential run in 2016. And they were, big supporters of the left, and all of them now are lining up very quickly behind him. And I've got some genuine thoughts that might differ from some people on that, but I wanted to get your take and find out what you see.
You know, in the last election, when Biden got elected, they poured money into them, and but they didn't do it with a smile on their face. I have to say, today, however, they all have a smile on their face, and they gave even double money to Trump, and now they're very happy with Trump because Trump is welcoming them with open arms, totally open arms at this point. This has been a coup for technocracy, in my opinion, because well, how long have I been talking about technocracy? At least 15 years,
Yeah.
and now people are going to start to pay attention to me. I hope they start to pay attention, but it's in full bloom now. We can see all the signs everywhere that the technocrats are basically taking over our government.
Yeah, and I think so. I think these things are very complex, right?
Oh, yes.
And I talk a lot about globalism and a global oligarchy, much of which is run by the technocracy, and much of it is controlled by technology. And we see that even with what China does and everything else. And so
Yes.
we're getting ushered into this new age where AI and all of these other things are going to begin to dominate. I would used to tease my girls because I'm a big science fiction guy, and I teased my daughters back in the day about the singularity, and the singularity is coming, and all that stuff, and it's it's some of it's good fun, but it is the truth,
Yeah.
and it is a matter of, okay, who is going to control this? I'm sure you followed Mark Andreessen, and he made comments about how the Biden administration came to them and said, hey, it's useless for you guys to be supporting AI startups because we're going to bless two or three companies, and the US government is essentially going to control and pick the winners and losers, and we're going to control the tech at the end of the day by controlling you guys. And they all went, no thanks, we're voting for Trump. And so now we have this situation where I look at it that we obviously want to harness technology to benefit the United States of America and benefit our lives. Is this wrestling match going to be won by we the people? And with Donald Trump, helping to promote American dominance in this area, or is it inevitable that this is just going to run us over, and we're going to be controlled by the likes of all of this all of these people and all this technology?
Oh, yes. We know since at least Jimmy Carter, this whole thread of technocracy has been building under the surface of the water.
Yes.
Every administration that's gone by since then, they've had their operatives working under the water, and they've cruised on to new highs every year since 19 at least 1975. And here they are today. They're surfacing finally, and we see, well, they've been there all the time, right?
That's
Along the
right.
way. And this whole business today, especially with the more far out stuff about technocracy. For instance, we need to explore outer space and we need to go to Mars. Really? That wasn't, by the way, that was not part of making American great. I don't think.
Right.
I followed that pretty closely before the election. I don't think anybody was thinking that it would be a good thing to go to Mars at this point. Colonize Mars, really, for the stars and stripes. What's this all about? Well, you have to dig deeper into it to figure out what's going on. Elon Musk is a key player here, however.
Right.
So, he's been touting that Mars is the final, well, the first step to the final frontier for mankind to reach the stars, colonize the stars.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
I recently went through his biography, Walter Isaacson's work, and I thought it was super interesting and super telling how much. I mean, almost all of these tech dudes are informed by what they saw growing up in the science fiction world and what they read and everything else. And I mean, guys like Isaac Asimov and all that, wrote these seminal works that now, it unlocked the imagination of these incredibly smart folks that want to develop the technology that they saw and that they were, reared on as children. And so much of that, I love and find fascinating. The kid in me, feels like I'm watching, many of these stories play out in real time.
Mhm.
Uh, but at the same time, it's a battle of worldviews as to,
Yes.
whether we are of the Christian worldview or we are of a man-centered secular humanism. And I think technology, God obviously gives us our brains to conceive of these things. Many of these things are, God breathed creativity. And so I'm not uncomfortable with that, but it is going to be a wrestling match, like I said earlier, between, who's in charge of this and whether this is subject to a Christian foundation or a secular humanism that, makes us all ones and zeros as human beings.
Exactly. We need to examine, by the way, this whole concept of manifest destiny. And this goes way back in our history as a nation. It was finally kind of put in writing somewhere around, I think it was 1850, the doctrine of manifest destiny. Basically, the United States was conquered, or we moved westward under this banner of a manifest destiny that basically God told us that that was our mission in life, to conquer the land from sea to sea. And so doing this, and along the way, we displaced basically everything in their path, including the Indians. We got rid of the buffalo. And here we are. I live in Arizona now. That was part of Mexico. You live in California. That was part of Mexico. Once
Actually,
upon a
I'm in
time.
Idaho now, but we also
Okay.
had
Well, it didn't
Indians
reach
on
right
these.
up there. But we've had all of this stuff was prosecuted under the name of God. Nevertheless, they did it in the name of God, and we can look back historically and examine that as Christians. Was that really a biblical thing to do? To think that we were somehow like Israel, who needed to expand its borders and take this land and that land or whatever, and subdue it for their own purposes? Well, that was never the mission of the church in the first place. That we were supposed to spread the gospel, for one, and that didn't mean taking a gun and say you're going to believe the gospel or else you're dead right now. Um, we have a lot of bones buried in our history for sure. If we could have just closed the door on that whole concept, and say, well, we sinned, we blew it, but here we are now, and we're going to make the best of it. Well, it's repeating on us now because Trump himself now is saying, we're going to do this, all of this stuff in the name of manifest destiny. We need to examine very carefully what he's talking about. We see this, like, for instance, with Steve Bannon as well. He's talking about manifest destiny.
Sure.
His sidekicks are as well, like Jack Posobiec and Charlie Kirk. They're all talking about manifest destiny. And now Trump has extended it to the stars as well, in honor of Elon Musk, I'm sure, because Elon Musk was the one that wanted to go to Mars in the first place. But now we're going to do all of this in the name of manifest destiny. Then let's put on the table the business with Greenland and Canada and Mexico. All of a sudden, this is coming into our imperial design as well. Really, where did this come through? We didn't think that was what was going to be part of making America great, but all of a sudden, well, the rules have changed apparently, because now all of this stuff has been being done in the name of manifest destiny. And we need to ask the question: has God told us as a nation that we should spread our wings in his name to conquer or take over these properties of the world and space with Mars?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question, and I'm going to push back a little bit on some of this, because I do think that so God has given us a charge, over the earth as Christians,
Yes.
and I think there's a responsible way that you do these things, and there's an irresponsible or brutish way you can do many of these things. Certainly in the past, and I'm not one, because I think we waste our time bemoaning the mistakes that we made in
Yes.
civilizing the planet, right? Because it's tough business, and I'm loath to do that, because that's how the left and the people who hate Western civilization attack us, is by you guys did this and you guys did that. Some of which was true, some of which was necessary. Fighting Indian savage tribes, which there were many of them that were that way. Some of them, of course, were not, and I think we did people wrong on the path. Where I struggle is in some of these things that I'm analyzing that Trump is talking about, including Greenland. There were strategic mistakes made, like with Panama. Panama, it was a strategic mistake to give that back so that someone else nefarious can control it, like China, and others. So, where I look, like I said earlier, that this stuff is complex. I think we need to figure out how to hold, our government accountable as we do some of the things that might be necessary but messy.
You bet. I might even be okay to negotiate with Greenland, for instance, to bring it into our orbit. But I would not want to do it in the name of God.
By the way, I actually agree with that, because remember, taking the Lord's name in vain is doing evil under His banner, right? And people mistake that and use that as a stand-in that thou shalt not swear. No, it's not about the use of expletives. It's not about the use of being coarse. It is about doing evil under His name. And I share your concern about us, suggesting that all of these things are a mandate from God versus Greenland. It might be important to our security. It might be something that the people of Greenland who are mistreated by Denmark would like to be part of the United States, and we can negotiate something to the benefit of Denmark. There are things like that. There are things where we have strategic interests, like the Panama Canal, that China is now controlling and can cause us a world of economic hurt and can use it to attack us kinetically as well. Okay, let's have conversations about that. But I agree with you. Let's be careful to do any of these things under the banner of heaven.
Yes. Well, at least now we can say that Mars is also on the table, but because they said that's exactly what Trump said in his message, and that's what Elon Musk has been saying along the way. However, let's be clear here: there's no signs at all that Elon Musk is a religious person,
No,
much less a Christian.
no, and
In
I
fact,
don't believe
yeah,
that he is our Messiah. Neither do I believe that Trump is our Messiah.
yeah,
And
exactly.
there are people in this movement that
Mhm.
get into their heads a little bit that way, and I reject it when I see it and whenever I see it.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting ride. I'll tell you that. In any case, because well, so many people at this point are saying somehow there's a divine appointment for all of this stuff to happen now. And if there was no a divine appointment, uh, you'd just be left with politics and economics, basically, just as a
Right.
sterile thing, right?
Right.
Somehow the wrapping in of the spiritual wrapper in this gets people excited to move forward. And
Hmm.
a lot of people, especially Christians now, are just eating this stuff up. Wow, God is going to deliver us with this whole thing now, and we're going to be saved. And well, I'm just a little skeptical,
Yeah, and I
but I
think
think
rightly
we
so.
we need to have this discussion because people like, well, Trump himself brought this whole business of manifest destiny up. We need to challenge these people on this. What do you mean by that? What do you really mean by that mission? Are you think about what happened before, or is this a new thing that you're coining? If
Mhm.
is this new, or is it what do you, how are you going to explore? Well, let me back up a minute. You know, in Genesis, where Adam was instructed to tend the earth, that was going to be the mechanism that would support the human race in perpetuity. Do we need Mars? Is God changed his mind? No, now we need Mars because there's resources on Mars, says Elon Musk. Resources to be mined and profited on and whatever. Okay, that will introduce a new chapter in our history if God is driving it. There's no biblical mandate on that, but where are we going to get it? How can we wrap that into our theology that the earth is not enough for
Yeah.
us?
That is very thought provoking. In all of this, I have not given that thought about, what a biblical mandate, um, yeah, would look like when you're wrapping in the universe. So I think that's great. I'm glad you brought that up. That gives me a lot to contemplate. I think that the direction that Trump, is communicating with his inaugural address, which I thought was phenomenal on many
It
levels.
really was, and
I, I
many
thought he I thought
agreed.
he did a great job announcing that the era of the woke politics, the Marxists, the domination of the globalists, all of that is coming to an end. And he hit point after point. He did not dance around things in a diplomatic fashion. He went right out and said, we are going to change these things. And so I thought a much of it was to stir up people, including Christians, and I think especially traditionalists who have felt beaten down, under the last 30,
Mhm.
40 years of uniparty, establishment. We're in charge. You guys are the children. Pat we the people on the head. Vote for us. We'll give you free stuff. All of that came from both sides. People felt beaten down.
Yep.
So the reaction can be so far and so poorly in the other direction, where we can all collectively lose our minds. And so I appreciate your warning, because I think it is appropriate that, hey, let's be sober on this stuff.
Well, amen. I was satisfied with many things that Trump said. Honestly, I am.
What stuck
And
out
we
to
shouldn't.
you? Was
We
there
would
anything?
not want. We would not want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, for sure, on this. We can be happy for any relief we get out here on the ground, especially for Christian freedom, that we have more of that today than probably in a long time.
Amen.
We're going to see free speech will be resuscitated a little bit for a time, giving us more freedom. I'm happy with that. I'd like to see the illegal influence run out of America as much as we can, so that we restore the jobs and stuff for the people who live here in the first place, residents and citizens of our country. I like that.
Yes.
And so there's other things as well, including even the bone that he threw the J6ers, to pardon all those people. This should have been done long time ago, but not under Biden for sure. In fact, they were still arresting people for J6 even 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean,
It's like, oh my gosh.
Siaka Massaquoi, who joins me on the show, every couple of weeks, and he's a dear friend of mine. He stepped into the building for 71 seconds just in the foyer. Took some video. Wow, the police said, "Hey, get out." He said, "Yeah, no problem," and left. And 4 FBI agents came and arrested him on his way back from a flight to Tennessee. And he was the judge presiding over the case. Was demanding, that they keep the trial date, which was today. And even though Trump had, publicly said that he's going to pardon them all on day one. I mean, this is a foolish, out of control federal judge that had plenty of authority just to see what, Trump was saying and dismiss this silly case to begin with. But
Yeah.
I mean, up until the very last minute, these people, these tyrants were pushing all of that J6 stuff, and praise God that he eliminated that really
Exactly.
with a stroke of his pen.
Yeah, that was a good thing for sure. And let's not forget also that the tongue lashing that Trump gave both Biden and Harris right in their face,
Beautiful.
basically.
It was
Holy mackerel.
Although
It
I
just
think Biden, even with his senility, is very grateful that Kamala Harris wasn't standing up there. He had a look on his face and body language that made me think that he wasn't all too sad that we have a Trump administration.
I know. So in any case, we have a mixed bag for sure. We can be happy for all the things that we're going to experience this 4 years, but never forget that in the end of this whole business of technopopulism, as I mentioned before, the winner is going to be technocracy in the end,
Yeah.
because you can't stop these people with politics. They don't care about politics at all. They haven't forever. As a matter of fact, I just wrote to a friend recently that I recently discovered in the last few months anyway, that the technocracy movement and Technocracy Inc. in the 1930s, they forbade any politician to join their organization, and also any communist. They didn't want them part of the organization. Well, they just excluded them. They would not let them come to meetings. They wouldn't give them a card, like to be a member. and they couldn't pay dues. So, this it's like there's a lot of animosity back in that day. It's changed a little bit, call it neo-technocracy or something today, but you still see this schism between everything else and technocracy. They wanted everybody to be out of the picture so they could rule everything. We see this kind of a domination aspect of this whole thing. And believe me, once people like Elon Musk gets his hands in our government, if he's he's a surviving member now of the Doge initiative. If he goes ahead with his efficiency cleaning house of the government, American government, he's pledged to reorganize our government. Period. He said, "Well, I'm going to reorganize everything on the plate." And okay, what does that mean? Well, what does he have to offer to us? The only thing he has to offer is AI at this point. Nothing else. AI, artificial intelligence. You're going to see this moving into government positions and into departments.
Yes.
Whole departments, even perhaps some agencies totally being taken over by AI. This would not be, it'd be efficient, but this would not be human.
Yeah, no, exactly. So now some of it, I'm not going to say I'm in favor of, but some of it can be a net good, and this is where I wrestle, and maybe you can help me and tell me what you think the answers are. For example, artificial intelligence, I believe, is going to pare down and reduce the big, gnarly omnibus packages and bills that, include all kinds of, pork deals and nonsense and everything that nobody ever reads.
Mhm.
Because instead of armies of lawyers dumping things in, which is what happens now, and then armies of staffers then telling the congressmen and senators what they should vote on those bills that they've never read, we're going to have AI quickly parse out, what these things are about, and also potentially, help to narrow some of these bills down and all of that. And it'll be more information that the people will have at their fingertips, in order to understand what these things really mean. That
Mhm.
part of AI, because I don't see any other way to restrain our government from doing those sort of pork bills and everything else. I don't see it. I don't see a way for us to rein them in without AI exposing them. And so
And
I find
yeah,
certain things, blessings and curses. And
yeah,
I'd love
yeah.
to get your thoughts
Oh,
and
you're
diagnosis on that.
you're exactly right. AI could be used for good in that instances for sure. In fact, I've used AI, for instance, to dig through complex articles that I get a hold of, and just give me a synopsis. Just summarize by bullet points or whatever. Just give me an idea what this thing's talking about here, and it's been helpful to me to understand stuff. That could be a great application to sift through a 1,500-page bill and find the loopholes on it that is, that nobody else can see because they can't read it that fast, right?
Right.
So that's basically that's just taking a document at that point. It's already been conceived and been in print, and digesting it and giving the legislators or the people, the auditors or whatever, a basic idea of what's going forward if this thing gets passed. However, the issue with AI is that, or the bigger issue with AI is that it can be used as a control mechanism to try to control the people who where the data has been collected from in the first place,
Yes.
to understand them, to parse where their mind is, where their heart
Oh
is,
yeah, it
what
can
their
manipulate
politics.
us.
exactly. So we see these initiatives today with, for instance, the Department of Defense and intel agencies are collecting massive, massive amounts of data on every citizen every day,
Yeah.
nonstop. What is this information going to be used for? It's not going to be used for, suggesting what you should buy on Amazon, for instance. This this is not not this. That's not the intent. The intent is to get enough information on you to where you can be controlled in the sense, for instance, of the Chinese social credit scoring system. Okay,
Yep.
where you can be manipulated from outside because based on your choices and your person on the inside. This is not good. There's in fact everywhere that AI has been so far, it's tended to be used for that purpose. We see pre-crime software, for instance, um, facial recognition software being introduced to police departments for all over the country. They don't understand what they have in their hand for one thing, but they're using it to pick people, forgetting a personal in-person lineup, to identify people and just go and arrest them, not based on other evidence, but they think this is so secure, then so sure that they got the perpetrator here, and they're going to arrest him on that basis alone. If he didn't do a crime, that's immaterial. Um, well, this is not the way society wants to go
Right.
for the good of society. This stuff can't help, and I can't say it. I can't say that has never helped a police department in the sense of uh, overcoming laziness and forgetting protocols and just doing it your own way, like the Wild West again.
Yeah.
Well, you multiply that into any potential agency in our government. That's police department is one, but just imagine this whole thing gets fed into our government en masse to control the people that are seeking services from the government. It's going to end up poorly for us in the end. It really, because there's no way to get rid of it. That nobody has figured out where's the plug. There's no plug here. We can't just unplug it. Say no, we're not going to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And
Once we get dependent upon AI, it's going to be very difficult to uncouple from it, should it become out of control. And I know you followed some of the early AI experiments where, AI started getting devious and
Mhm.
it can go evil on us, fairly quickly. And there's been some, fascinating experiments that have already showed that. But yeah, how do we, once we become dependent upon thinking machines, to use the term from Dune, how do we
Yeah,
eliminate it? Which, if you
yeah,
know that science fiction
yeah,
story,
yes,
it's what destroyed society in the early history in that fictional universe.
yes,
So this is again, the science
yeah,
fiction nerd in me is pretty excited about watching some
yeah.
of this unfold.
I've always liked science fiction myself personally, and I've read a lot and I've seen a lot of movies and stuff over the years. I I maybe I should be ashamed that I saw too many along
Yeah.
the way, but um, but you can see how this stuff can play out.
Yeah,
Uh,
those writers were brilliant and they were
yes,
prescient. And
yes,
so as much as, the Elon Musks of the world are informed by what they wrote and going, okay, how do we create, you know, automatic opening doors, which now are ubiquitous all over the country. But that was, a Star Trek Gene Roddenberry kind of thing. The door
yeah,
senses you as you approach it, it opens and closes. And people took those concepts and went, how do we do that? I mean, the nerdy little children, figured out to how to make some of these things come to life. But also, those guys imagined the horrors that out of control technology can bring, and what AI can bring, and what machines can do when they're running us and controlling and commanding our civilization. And we can take a lot from what their imaginations projected in, understanding the dangers of it. And that's what I think informs you and me even in our thoughts. I know you've been paying attention to this stuff, because so much of it is we're on the doorstep of.
Exactly. We need to remember that artificial intelligence is an oxymoron. There's no such thing as artificial intelligence. Humans are endued with intelligence, and we're the pinnacle of God's creation, for one thing. And God gave us a brain and the ability to reason. Go figure how he did it. It doesn't matter. We're a miracle. Every one of us is a walking miracle, that we have this thing up here in our brain that's greater than any supercomputer in the world. And to think, for these people to think that these technocrats who march, by the way, to a worldview that is totally mechanistic. They have no concept of divine intervention at all. When you take a mechanistic attitude about the universe, then artificial intelligence all of a sudden becomes appealing to them, not to us. But there's no such thing as artificial intelligence. That's a human thing. And so it's not just an oxymoron. It's completely misleading for Christians, especially, to think, oh, this intelligence is going to reach super intelligence or whatever, become a god like that. No, it's not. It's never going to achieve that. But they think it is. The creators think that it is, and it's not human at all. And so we all should be very careful, even when we use it for personal use. Like I use it for fact checking sometimes, or analyzing a story. We should always be cognizant that it's not human intelligence at all. It's a fake.
Yeah. Okay. So, in wrapping up the next few minutes of our show, you and I have identified some of these problems. We're looking at this. You've been, a Paul Revere in this, warning us for quite some time. We got Elon Musk, we got Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos. All these guys are lined up behind Trump and are now supporting this administration in what can be a new golden age of America. And I'm optimistic that there's that opportunity ahead of us. What do we do, as citizens to, safeguard ourselves from, the coming technopopulism? What can we do so that they don't? Subvert us and submit us in the end. Is there a prescription?
Well, we need to ascertain history a little bit, at least modern history, with technopopulism. What does it mean? In Europe, they've been writing now for at least 6, 7, 8 years now. Literature has been created to describe the phenomena of technopopulism, where a populist movement gets bonded with a technocratic movement to form a new entity called this is what they're calling it is technopopulism. It has not ended well. For instance, in Italy, Spain, Germany is experiencing it right now. And the UK, especially in the UK, after their Brexit movement, and they got sort of loose from the European Union, then the populist movement looked around. They didn't have any solutions. The technocrats swept in at that point and took over basically the operation of the country. Well, the technocrat movement took them over the edge into the cesspool that they are now. And so scholars have been writing, what happened here to our countries? Well, the technocrats won in the end, and they excluded all the populists along the way and just left them in a smoldering heap on the side. We should be informed by their experience on what could potentially happen here with the populist movement. I was part of that populist movement myself. You probably were too. I think most Christians probably were. They got sick of party politics.
Sure.
And they said, how about just think about us for now, for a little while, how about us out here in the hinterland, just give us a break, would you? But when we got our man elected, and actually several people around the country were populist candidates, we don't want to give out or give way to these technocrats coming in. We're certainly not going to be able to influence Trump at this point. He's going to do what he's going to do, and we can't stop it. But you can do a lot on your local level and your state level for sure to inform and educate your people on the dangers of technopopulism and say, guys, you need to be aware here. Don't do the same mistakes that they're going to do on a national basis. Don't do this here. And you can insulate your communities and your state as well. Some states are already taking advice like this. And so I think this is really the only thing they can do at this point. And of course, for the time that we have today, we have new opportunities, and we should take advantage of spreading the gospel and being ambassadors to people in the world who just don't get it.
That's right.
And we can hook up with people in the world with a message of hope, and also a message of what's going on. Why do we need to go to Mars? What a great way to start a conversation. Somebody, would you like to go to Mars? I have a ticket for you. No.
Good question. No, it's a good question. Well, I think, Patrick, I think you're right. And I keep returning to this on all of the, existential questions. Well, the answer is that we need to have a true, second revival here for Christ. We need people to come to Christ, and that is, what will influence even the outcome of AI and these technopopulists. We need more believers. We need people who, are focusing on Him as the answer. And no matter what happens, I think, we'll be all right because we'll be in His service. So,
yes.
With that, hey, how do we follow you? How do we support all of your efforts?
Well, you can find my website at technocracy.news. And my books are on Amazon, for instance. This book here of The Evil Twins of Technocracy and Transhumanism. This book will pop your eyeballs out of your head. I wrote this almost 3 years ago now. And it's amazing how much stuff is coming true right now. I was not a prophet, believe me, but all the stuff that God has revealed to me over the years is just spilling out now. And so all my books are available on Amazon. There's a Kindle version out there. There's a recorded audio book as well. You can get that. But don't delay to understand what's going on. You have to dig in. This is the time for you to dig in, do your study, and get wise on what's going on today. We have such an opportunity to be ambassadors for Christ in this day and age where we have the freedom to speak out and the knowledge to do it from. We have both sides of the
Amen.
thing covered here.
Amen. Amen. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. And for us, follow our show. We have a new YouTube channel. The evil cancel YouTube people shut down our show when we began a couple of years ago, but we've resurrected it. And we're gaining subscribers, and we need you to subscribe as well. Follow us on Rumble also. And if you want to hear what I have to say or see what I have to say on X, I'm Bryce Eddy 1, and on Instagram, Super Bryce Eddy. And if you want to join our email address, hit us up on bryceeddy.com. Well, hey, thanks, Patrick, for having a awesome show with me here. I appreciate your time and your wisdom as usual. To God be the glory, and we are out.
Amen.
Hey, thank you for watching or listening to this show. If you are someone who listens to us on the podcast apps, please go to our Rumble channel. Even if you're not going to watch us there, we'd appreciate you hitting subscribe. We want to boost those numbers up and make sure that channel continues to grow. But again, thank you so much for listening to us.